In this week's video, travel stutters as we encounter a major electrical fault. After a few very cold nights, lots of tinkering and head scratching with our favourite van repairman, I take a 5-hour round trip to exchange our Electroblock before we almost fix it. Oh, and by the way, we upgrade our gas system to Gaslow LPG system. But first, welcome to our channel. We are Kath, Sue, Archie and Fudge. We've been travelling and living full-time in our motorhome since March of 2022. As we navigate our second winter, we reflect on last year, a leak, a smashed windscreen, but most importantly, our time together in spectacular British countryside. We'd be honoured if you join us. Unfortunately, the sound for this clip was rubbish, but it's me, Kath, driving on an urgent mission, explaining that we lost all power in the van the previous night, and despite my best efforts in the freezing cold with a multimeter I didn't really know how to use, I failed to fix it. I needed professional help. I've arrived with the experts, and they've got their multimeters out, and they know what they're doing with them, so hopefully they're going to be able to isolate and diagnose the problem and fix it. We're keeping all our fingers crossed. And for those of you who haven't watched the channel from the start, this is Ollyvan, otherwise known as Paul, who is my go-to. And even when I'm on the road, I give him a ring and he talks me through stuff. So he's absolutely brilliant. So you're fixing my temporary fix there. It had actually just completely come out of there.
It might have just been loose
the
first time and not noticed.
Yeah. And then what happened, Sue had gone out and she came in and slammed the door.
Yeah.
And that's when all the power went. So I think that had kind of jogged it off.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there is.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not that after all.
Hopes are made then, Hopes.
Right, let me tell you where we are at the moment. So, we've had a couple of conversations with Mark of Bluefix Energy Solutions and Ollyvan, and between them they've been kind of discussing all the things that they're trying. And if we turn the engine on, we now can get power to everything. So, we've now got to the point where we think it might be some kind of electrical or electronic kind of misfire in the Electroblock, which apparently is quite a complex bit of kit. So what Mark has suggested we try in the first place is literally just power everything off. So disconnect the battery, pull everything out of the Electroblock. It's a bit like turning your computer on and off. You know, when you ring the helpline, they say, have you tried turning it on and off? That's what we're doing. So we're leaving it half an hour. We're going to power everything back up and see whether that kind of resets whatever the issue might have been. And if it doesn't, Mark has suggested we get hold of a company called Apuljack. I've never heard of them, but Ollyvan had heard of them. Apparently they're really good and may even have the Electroblocks on, off the shelf if indeed we need to replace the whole thing, which I'm sure won't be cheap. Never is it? But anyway, we're going to try the power down and up first and see how we go. Well, good afternoon. I thought I'd update you on kind of where I've got to. The nearest place I know to here is Weston-super-Mare, although I think the nearest actual big town is Burnham-on-Sea. So I've just driven 2.5 hours. I've got my Electroblock out of the van, I've got it with me, and I've come to a place called Apuljack Electronics, who were recommended to me. They've got an EBL 220 Electroblock in stock, and they do an exchange. So they refurbish them, and you can bring yours in, they'll take it away, they'll fix it, and you can order a repair, but the quickest is to exchange for one that they've already refurbished and you get back. At least that's what I understand the situation to be. Now, I've come in the car because it was just quicker. They close at 5 and I want to pick up the Electroblock and take it back. I probably won't fit it myself because I'm due back tomorrow to have the Gaslow system fitted with Ollyvan, and he'll put it back in. So we'll have another cold night tonight without any power. The 240 volt sockets actually do work on electric, so at least we can charge devices. We'll have another cold night tonight, and hopefully it'll all get fixed tomorrow. I am crossing so many fingers and toes, but I'll let you know how I get on. Well, good evening. This is our second night with absolutely no power whatsoever in the van, and it's bitingly cold now. I've not checked the temperature, what it is in the van, but it is pretty cold. So we're snuggling down for the night now. It's actually quite late because we've watched a film on the iPad, but keeping everything crossed that tomorrow we'll be able to fit the new Electroblock and everything will be fine. Well, we've survived our second frosty night. The temperature outside is -4, and we had ice on the inside of the windscreen this morning. So we've stopped at a shopping centre where we knew there was a Costa coffee, just so we can have something warm before we stand outside with, hello, yes, that's nice. Sue's going to take Fudge for a walk today. Archie's going to stay with me while we hopefully go and fix the van. Oh, please, 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 let's fix the van and have the gas upgrade done. Well, I'm back at Ollie's workshop for the second day. We're going to try the Electroblock first and see whether we can get the electrics working before we start on anything else. I'm talking about the Royal We, of course, because I'm doing nothing and Paul is doing everything. What are you doing, Archie? You're being a good boy. On the latest update, we think we've isolated what the problem is. I'm using that we again. I've had nothing to do with this. Paul is the genius in this. He's isolated the problem and now he's trying to fix it. Yeah, he did it. We can have heating again tonight. We won't freeze to death. Yeah. Well, I couldn't be happier. The electric system seems to be working. And we've left Ollyvan now doing the bits that he needs to do to put in the Gaslow system, and to what else he's doing, some bits and pieces that I've asked him to do whilst he's got the van, and he's going to also do the annual habitation check as well. And then Sue and I are just doing a bit of shopping. When we're finished, I will go. I've identified an LPG station that's not far from here, so I'll need to do my very first LPG fill up. So I'm hoping that we will drive away at the end of the day today with a fully working gas system, a fully working electric system. We'll be able to put the heating on, and tonight will be a very comfortable night in the van. Good morning. Now it feels like I've got quite a lot to update on. First things first, the electrical system. So you will have seen I was delighted. It looks like everything was working perfectly, and so we left Ollyvan, and then we discovered the TV and the antenna wasn't working, and what we deduced from that was actually it was the 12 volt sockets in the van that weren't working. So I had to fiddle around, and I have a multimeter, and I've now learned how to use it. I'm so delighted about that. And what I was able to find from that is on the Electroblock I could find that we had live going in and we had live coming out everywhere except where the two little red fuses, 10 amp fuses, are for the TV and the antenna. You still with me? So that made me think, oh my goodness, I've exchanged my Electroblock and I've got another one that's not working or faulty. I should say, incidentally, I don't think my Electroblock was faulty because we isolated a cable, not even a connection of a cable, an actual cable, really unusual, but I'll never know because I exchanged my Electroblock. Anyway, that's another story. So I contacted Ollyvan, and as usual he said, oh, bring it over, Kath, we'll have another look at it. And we scratched our heads, and eventually we ended up having a conversation with technical support at Apuljack, so I've got to say were absolutely brilliant. So we talked him through what we'd done to isolate everything, and he gave us another couple of things to check out, which were all fine. And then he said, right, let's go through the plugs in the block. And it turns out there is another little plug, and effectively it just creates a loop back on itself. I think there might be 2 wires. This little loop of wire, in effect, takes the live through to the fuses, or vice versa. I'm not quite sure which way around. And that was missing. So the technician said, hang on a minute, let me go back and have a look at the one. It may be that we've not taken it out of the one that you returned. Everything else unplugs, so you can't physically move the Electroblock without unplugging. But of course, because this little plug doesn't go anywhere, it's just to loop back on itself, it turns out it was still in the Electroblock. So the technician said, don't worry, we'll get that in the post to you, and I can give you a workaround. Well, we can live with it for a few days, and we'll head back it's going to Dan's house, so we'll head back to Dan's house and pick up the part from him. Next thing I want to tell you about is the Gaslow system. We left Ollyvan's and left him to it, installing it, but I'm going to show you that in a second. But the Gaslow system is fitted, it's working. I filled it with gas at my first time ever. It was relatively easy in the end. I had a little bit of help from a member of staff there, but I reckon I've got that sussed now. So it is definitely, already I can see, a lot cheaper. Let me see. So I reckon I've got twice as much gas as I would have had, almost 1.7 times more than I would have had. So it cost me £41 for 41 litres there or thereabouts, and so filling it up from full is like having 2 full colour bottles. Now I've been paying recently £35 to £40 a bottle for a 6 kilo bottle. In this case I paid £41 for what is in effect 4 times one bottle. I reckon having the LPG now is going to be at least 2/3, if not 3/4, less expensive than using colour. So actually the money that I've paid to have this fitted, I reckon I'll get back quite quickly. I haven't done the maths on that yet, but I'll probably let you know in a later video how that's going. And finally, well, we did move on yesterday. We had planned to move on, we did move on, and we're now at a place in Sussex called Copperfield. It's not far from Horsham. It's called Copperfield Farm. It's a CL site. It's in a fairly rural location. It's quiet. It's a little bit expensive, actually. It's actually £25 per night. Now, obviously that includes electrical hookup, but there's no other facilities apart from water and waste. And we're finding at the moment there's a real big difference in some of the prices, particularly the CL sites. The big sites, that they're, I suppose there's a big difference in those as well. But £25 a night for nothing really other than your electricity supply, I think is quite expensive. And we haven't seen the owners yet, so I say it's quite expensive. We haven't paid yet. We've not found out how to pay, because they definitely wanted cash payment. Anyway, enough for that. Let's have a look at the gas system. Yeah, so the filler point is down here, nice and easy, tucked away on the skirt, which I think is quite neat. And then obviously the 2 big 11.4 kilogram gas bottles. Well, there you have it. That's what happens when van life goes wrong. I'm really sorry about the lack of travel content this week. We did have quite a lot of local commitments that we were getting on with, which would have been very boring for you, but also spent an awful lot of time sorting out the van problem, which you've just got to do. Anyway, on that note, I think I will leave this video where it is. Next week, we hope to get a bit more travel into the video. Fingers crossed that we don't get any more problems. So hopefully you'll stick with us and watch us next week as well. Take care.